If you want peace, prepare for war. The United States has learned this rule well. So when offering Iran a peaceful agreement and the abandonment of its nuclear program, they did not forget to back up the offer with an entire armada of equipment and weapons aimed at Tehran.
We will indeed either have to talk and discuss this, or very bad things will happen with Iran.
The first conversation took place last Saturday, April 12th. Initially, everything went peacefully and respectfully, but without results. They agreed to continue the discussion this week.
Let me remind you that they have already managed to enrich uranium to about 60%, right? And as nuclear specialists say, they are indeed already on the verge of creating at least a dirty bomb, if not more.
Understanding that there might not be any result at all, neither the states nor Iran are slowing down, neither in rhetoric nor in actions. And while some are sending their bombers closer to the potential combat zone, others are mobilizing the army and conducting exercises. So, should we expect a war between Washington and Tehran? What resources do both sides have, and most importantly, what can put an end to this conflict? We will talk about this today in the new episode of Arsenal. The main news of recent days: Iran and the USA have finally moved from escalation and threats to dialogue. On April 12th, the first meeting between the parties regarding the Iranian nuclear program took place. However, despite diplomatic assessments claiming that the dialogue was conducted in a constructive atmosphere, and based on mutual respect, there are no visible results yet. The participants agreed to meet again in a week, but for now, everything remains as it was.
Trump fully understands the increased threats. Iran has delivery means, that is, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and accordingly, if it comes to the direct development of nuclear warheads, this significantly changes the balance of power in the region.
The main task for the United States today remains to dismantle Iran's nuclear program and bring it back within the framework of the Non-Proliferation Agreement for this type of weapon. It is worth noting that it was Trump who, during his first term in 2018, withdrew the United States from the previous nuclear agreement between Iran and the world powers. However, since then, Tehran has become a much greater threat.
Trump himself talks about this, proposing to renew the nuclear deal. Well, let's say to negotiate, yes, on this matter, so that Iran would ultimately shut down its nuclear program. I remind you that they have already managed to enrich uranium to about 60%, right? And they are already, as nuclear experts say, on the verge of at least creating a dirty bomb, and maybe more than one.
But Tehran is in no hurry to abandon the prospect of nuclear status, which scientists have been actively working on for almost a decade. Hence the threats, the deployment of troops, and a new round of pressure from the US.
The Iranian side has the technical capabilities to obtain nuclear warheads. This concerns Iran's program regarding the use of enriched uranium. Several nuclear research centers have been established in Iran, where specialists, and I do not rule out the possibility of experience exchange with the Russian Federation, are working on developing the country's nuclear program.
The states, in the classic manner of their current leader, indeed continue to demand its termination.
Iran definitely holds a very high and very important place on my list of things to watch. And as you are probably already aware, I recently sent them a letter. I said, you will have to make a decision one way or another, and we will either have to talk and discuss it, or very bad things will happen with Iran.
Trump even suggested that Iran might disappear by the beginning of autumn if it doesn't agree to a deal. To which the country's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, responded that he accepts the challenge and is putting his army on high alert. A beautiful song in Armenian. And the United States responded more eloquently by bringing an entire group of combat aircraft carriers and smaller boats to the shores of Iran. Leading this strike team was the nuclear aircraft carrier Carl Vinson. The firepower also includes the missile cruiser Princeton and two Arleigh Burke-class missile destroyers, Arleigh Burke-Street and William Lawrence. Both of the latter ships are relatively new. They were commissioned in 2008 and 2011, respectively. Thus, the group in the Middle East consists of two aircraft carriers, each capable of carrying 90 planes and helicopters. Together, that's a total of 180 aircraft. Additionally, fifth-generation F-35 fighters are also stationed on board.
Fifth-generation fighters are machines that are expected to revolutionize the concept of combat aviation. Currently, all branches of the military, including the Air Force, the Army, which is the ground forces, the Marine Corps, and of the Navy, will have a unified type of aircraft, the F-35.
The cruising speed of the F-35 is 850 kilometers per hour, with a practical ceiling altitude of about 15 kilometers. The total flight duration is 2 hours and 30 minutes. But it wasn't even these characteristics that made the aircraft carrier famous worldwide. The uniqueness of the F-35 lies in its avionics and the pilot's helmet. As for the avionics, it allows the American fighter to identify and detect ballistic missile launches at a distance of up to 1,300 kilometers, carry out tracking, and provide targeting for each individual. Target in an automated mode, detect missile attacks on the aircraft in advance, neutralize enemy equipment and artillery, as well as patrol the airspace day and night, such as...
That is, there is also a helmet-mounted targeting system. What does this mean? The aircraft flies forward, and the missile is guided by the pilot's head movement to the left, right, at all 90 degrees, or even programmatically. It first launches forward, then turns and flies towards the target that is pursuing, the F-35 aircraft. It provides the pilot with a 360-degree view because it receives information not only from what the pilot sees with their own eyes, but also from the optoelectronic system and the radar system and additional sources. Compared to the fourth generation, it represents a revolutionary quantum leap in the aircraft's capabilities, both in striking ground targets and in evading enemy weapons.
But the F-35 is not the scariest thing awaiting Tehran if they indeed decide to fight against the USA. On the aircraft carriers that have arrived in the Middle East, there are also B-2A Spirit bombers, armed with powerful bombs capable of destroying any enemy bunker.
Trump is indeed already resorting to such a demonstration of military force, right? Showing that they can simply use these B-2 bombers to drop bombs, the so-called heavy bombs, which could in fact hypothetically destroy underground bunkers where uranium enrichment is taking place.
Understanding where things are heading, Iran has already reached out to Iraq, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Turkey, and Bahrain, urging them not to consider cooperating with the states if they decide to openly attack Tehran.
Primarily, this concerns providing an air corridor for the United States now and its allies to carry out airstrikes on military targets within Iran. Therefore, Iran is trying to distance itself from such scenarios through preventive measures, that is, these public statements regarding countries that could potentially provide an air corridor, but they fully understand the reaction of both the countries themselves and, accordingly, the coalition. This refers to the United States, the United Kingdom, and accordingly Israel's reaction to such statements by Iran.
And there can only be one reaction. Iran is not in a position right now to threaten anyone else. It seems that they understand this in Tehran as well, which is why they previously attempted to conduct a negotiation scheme.
Iran's first proposal was that the Russian Federation should act as a mediator. In other words, it was a scenario by the Russian Federation that was disrupted by the Trump administration. Accordingly, Iran fully understands that further direct negotiations would signify a political victory for Trump. They cannot allow this amid pressure from the Russian Federation, and are trying to lobby for a so-called third party in order to maintain diplomatic face, which in the opinion of Iran's spiritual leader would demonstrate the country's agency. In other words, that he did not succumb to the military political pressure from the United States.
However, there will definitely be no smiles on this face. Therefore, analysts still predict that an agreement can be reached, although the negotiation process promises to be long and quite complex. Did you like this video? Then don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our new Arsenal channel. The link is in the description below the video.